Donald Trump is one of the worst and most horrible human beings who's ever lived. I mean,
Now, in this clip, we're about to witness something that still shocks a lot of people. Donald Trump's former presidential primary opponent, Joe Walsh, going completely scorched earth on Trump during a UK interview. And this isn't some offhand jab or careful political criticism. Walsh unloads with a level of intensity that feels more like a reckoning than a debate. What makes this moment especially striking is the setting. This isn't American cable news, where Trump criticism has become almost routine. This is an international stage, where the guardrails are different, the audience is broader, and the commentary cuts straight through the noise. Walsh speaks with the urgency of someone who believes this isn't just about party politics anymore, but about something far bigger. Now, fair warning. Some of what he says will land as extreme to certain viewers. There's no soft language, no hedging, no both sides cushioning. Walsh frames Trump not as a misunderstood political figure, but as a fundamental problem, and he doesn't seem remotely concerned about backlash for saying so. That alone tells you how deep the divide inside American conservatism has become. At the same time, this raises an important question. When criticism sounds this intense, is it honesty? Or is it overreach? Is Walsh saying what others are afraid to say? Or has he crossed a line that actually strengthens Trump's narrative? That's where this gets interesting, and that's why reactions to this clip are so sharply divided. I'll leave the link to the full exchange in the description so you can hear every word in context. Watch closely, because tone matters here just as much as substance. Let's go through it together, and once it's done, I'll break down exactly what stood out, what landed, and what this moment says about the current state of American politics.
So a well-known Hollywood director and his wife are brutally stabbed to death by their adult son, and the guy in the White House comes out and says the reason he was killed was because he had too much hate for me. I just don't think this is said enough. It needs to be said again. Donald Trump is one of the worst and most horrible human beings who's ever lived. I mean, ever lived. Ever lived. We think of serial killers, think of mass murderers, think of tyrants who've killed millions during their reigns. We've had American commentators today put up Trump's post and say there are no words. Bull crap. There are words. That's evil. That's psychopathic. That's not human. That's monstrous. And until we have the courage to call him what he is, then America will never move beyond him.
Do you think his supporters know all this, Joe? Do you think they grasp what you're saying? They might well agree with a lot of it and they don't care. And if not, how has he managed to convince tens of millions of Americans that he's actually a great guy after all?
Well, that's a great question. I don't think he's convinced anybody he's a great guy. Look, I'm a former Tea Party guy. I was out every day last year campaigning for Kamala Harris. And what most voters in the middle told me was, Joe, I know Trump's a blankety blank. I know he's a bad guy, but the Democrats suck. They're out of touch. They look down on me. This needs to be understood. America knowingly elected an a-hole. We knowingly elected a bad guy. I think most of his supporters, because they've told me, because I used to be a Trump supporter, Joe, I know he's a jerk, but look what he's doing. It's way beyond that. It's not that he's just a jerk. We haven't talked about this tonight. We're talking about a human being, Ben, who lies every time he opens his mouth. I'm a former politician. All politicians lie. We've never been here before. He lies every time he opens his mouth. We've never had the courage to confront really what he is.
This sounds like a sort of stupid question, Joe, or a simplistic question, but I think it's an interesting one. Why does it matter? Because what you're saying there is tens of millions of Americans were willing to overlook the fact that Donald Trump is to use your words, evil, because they thought he would do a good job for them and their families, effectively. They thought he would make them better off, he would bring about the kind of changes they want to see, and if he happened to be a psychopath while he was doing it, well, so be it. Why are they wrong to think that?
Well, and that's why, my friend, I loved your question. Does it matter? Because that's the question I've put in front all day of Trump supporters. Because if any American voter says it doesn't matter that Trump's a bad guy. It doesn't matter that he's a pathological liar. It doesn't matter that he's horrible, cruel, and psychopathic. If you say it doesn't matter, then what you're saying is the character, the personal character of any politician no longer matters.
Yeah.
So then, baby, a Democratic candidate comes down the road in 4 years and he's an ass and he's cruel and he lies all the time. Well, look at me, Trump supporter. Hey, look at me. You told me it doesn't matter. It wipes personal character completely off the map. Now, I think that's a really frightening place to go.
Why, Joe? Why is character beyond competence and sort of vision for the country? Why is personal character still so important?
Because then we can never hold anyone we elect accountable for what they do. The bad things they say, the cruelty they impose on people, the lies, the hatred, the incitement of violence. Look, remember what we're talking about here. We're talking about a guy who 5 years ago incited people to overrun our Capitol to overthrow an election. But we reelected that guy. So what we said was, it doesn't matter if our leaders incite violence. Character leads to what you do. Ultimately, it does. And if we break that tie, and you made some great points, like, sure, we elect politicians all the time who have questionable character. We've never done this. And I'll say it again till I'm blue in the face. He is the utter worst of us. If we accept that, then we have to accept anyone.
One of the worst people ever to have lived, says Joe Walsh. I don't know if I go quite that far, but I think a lot of what Donald Trump does is evil. And if you define evil as a complete lack of empathy or humanity, a complete callous disregard for other people's emotions and needs, then Donald Trump is evil.
Coming out of that clip, the reaction makes sense. Some of the points raised were sharp, relevant, and difficult to dismiss. Now, calling Donald Trump the most evil person in history is where the argument arguably goes too far. History is filled with figures who committed atrocities on a far greater scale. But here's the key point. Is Donald Trump an evil individual? Based on his record, yes. January 6th alone changed how he will be remembered, inciting an attack on the Capitol, undermining democracy, and putting lives at risk crossed a line that modern American politics had never seen before. Politicians lie all the time, but weaponizing those lies to challenge the peaceful transfer of power is something entirely different. Add to that the repeated spreading of election falsehoods, knowingly eroding trust in democratic institutions simply because he refused to accept defeat. Then there are the cruel border policies, family separations, and aggressive enforcement actions that caused real human suffering. This isn't accidental chaos, it's a pattern. Trump's history of divisive rhetoric, admiration for authoritarian leaders, and hostility toward Democratic allies only reinforces the concern. So no, he may not be the most evil figure in history, but the damage he's done and continues to do is serious, dangerous, and still unfolding. That's why Walsh's comments, extreme or not, are resonating with so many people right now.